Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.
The Professor, just about holding his shit together in this case. Sorry about the vulgarity, but you understand its need. So let's carry on from last week's episode regardless. God knows, no one seems to have any regard for me and mine. And scene. The moment Lucifer clicked her fingers, I knew deep in my ancient, battle-hardened soul that something in my drawing room was about to become structurally unreasonable and probably unfeasible. There was an implosion, and then a hiss. Not a polite implosion, and then a hiss. God, no. Not the sort of restrained, apologetic pop and hiss one expects from a well-bred kettle. No. This was an industrial, the laws of thermodynamics have filed a complaint sort of pop and hiss. I turned slowly. My cupboard. My bloody cupboard. The one that, until approximately 3 seconds ago, contained a vacuum cleaner, 3 umbrellas, and what I've always suspected was a missing sock that had achieved cultural independence. Well, it was now venting steam. Lots of bloody, damp, superheated bloody steam. Thick, rolling clouds poured out around the edges of the door, curling upward and licking at the Edwardian cornicing like an overfamiliar guest. Jesus. I inhaled sharply. This was terrifying. My wallpaper, I said, with the quiet horror of a man witnessing a personal tragedy. That's hand-restored, that is. I pointed at the deteriorating flock. Do you have any idea how difficult it is to... Do you... It's so hard to source these things. To source Edwardian real flock paper that hasn't been ruined by someone with a bloody glue gun and a dream. Lucifer, lounging on the sofa with the sort of effortless elegance that suggested she'd personally invented lounging, glanced at the cupboard.
It'll dry,
she said, a vindictive smile addressing those perfect lips. I was actually speechless for an unprecedented amount of time. It will dry, but it will... I noted desperation in my voice now. It'll warp. Things. I offered, already striding across the room with the urgency of a man who'd faced down demons, but refused to lose a skirmish with humidity. I wafted at the steam rather pathetically with my pocket square before realizing it was a battle lost, and just looked at the ruin. Wood swells. Paint. Bubbles. Do you know what bubbling paint leads to, eh? Do you? Do you, I stopped the sentence without forethought. There was a tense moment as I realized who I was addressing. I winced slightly.
Be careful what you say, Simon. You may not be able to take it back.
Not a warning that was worth ignoring. I was exasperated, but quickly realized that the entity that I was chastising was, after all, none other than the devil. Yes, quite. My apologies, Lucifer, but... I pointed at the first panel of peeling paper as it drooped and rolled down the wall to the floor, and added a whimper as the paint festered on the wooden architraves. Bubbling paint. It leads to touch-ups, Lucy. Touch-ups are the gateway to full redecoration, I told the beast from hell. The cupboard door rattled. I leapt back, expecting... Well, I've no idea what I was expecting to come out of the cupboard. but I could not in any way imagine it was going to be good. Then it swung open. I cowered slightly, stupidly closing my eyes, shielding myself from whatever abhorrent entities were going to charge out and kill me. Huh? Nothing. I dropped my hand slowly and built the courage to open my eyes in the general direction of the cupboard. Inside it, impossibly, was not a cupboard. It was a lift. Come on, Simon, American audience, Yankee vernacular. Elevator. It was an elevator. Not a modern one with brushed steel and faintly disappointing lighting. This one was wrought iron and brass, all ornate lattice work and softly glowing runes that pulsed like something with a heartbeat. Steam curled around it dramatically, because of course it did. I stopped, dead in my tracks. "Lucy!" I yelled. For fuck's sake! Lucy, there's a bloody infernal lift in my storage space!
Temporary,
Lucifer said. I saw the anger in her surface, but she took her eyes to her red, perfect nails in order not to give me a look that could kill me. No, damn. Well, a look that would probably have spoiled my evening a lot more than this evening had already been spoiled, which was rather a lot, if I'm honest. "It's always fucking temporary with you," I muttered. "Might be temporary, but the effects are not so bloody temporary, are they? They're bloody..."
That's what you said about the incident with the cherubim and the wine cellar. And that turned out to be positive for your airflow, remember?
Ah, yes. She was right there. Solid. A low ding echoed from within the elevator, and then the music started. The music was hell-born. I closed my eyes briefly. "Of course it dings," I said. "Of course it plays. Is that a tune? Why wouldn't it ding? Why would it not play that damned tune?" At that exact moment, the doorbell, distractingly tolled. A single, perfectly normal, entirely British ding that somehow felt more surreal than the portal to hell currently redecorating my bloody cupboard. "Who in hell is that?" I blurted my irritation, which was still very evident.
Good one, Simon,
said Lucifer, thinking I'd made a joke. I looked at her blankly. The werecat appeared instantly, as if summoned by the concept of mild inconvenience. She paused and glanced at the steaming cupboard and shook her head in resigned disappointment, then at me as though the cupboard issue was of my creation. I gestured faintly. "Door," I said to her, rather too firmly. I know it was a little rude of me to address her like this, but Vaughn could see that I was mentally whatevered. She nodded once and padded off, heavy Dr. Martin somehow making no sound at all on the polished floorboards. I turned back to Lucifer. "I assume," I said carefully, "that whatever is eventually arriving through that contraption will not shed, scorch, ooze, or otherwise compromise the integrity of my furnishings or the fabric of my building, Lucifer smiled. It was not reassuring.
Oh, Simon, where's your sense of adventure?
She said.
But nothing is coming up in it. It's just for the journey down.
An uncomfortable silence fell as we waited for the dinger at the door. Who was it? We were all here, weren't we? Is whoever, or whatever, is at the door anything to do with you, Lucy? I asked the smiling devil.
Most definitely not,
she said, with a slight hint of disgust.
Quite the opposite in this case,
she said, as she took another sip of my port, From the hallway came the faint sound of the front door opening. Then a pause. A mumbled greeting of sorts. Then footsteps, 2 sets of them. One measured, deliberate, accompanied by the soft rustle of fabric and the faint, comforting aura of someone who believed in tea, biscuits, and the eternal salvation. The other felt like probability had just taken a sharp turn and decided to see what would happen. The werecat returned silently, leading them in. First came a slightly podgy priest, hat in hand, looking exactly like a man who'd expected a quiet evening visit somewhere nice like the local manor and hopefully a small dry sherry. We all turned to look at him. I could see the hope fall from the priest's face. He filled the silence. He was probably used to such reactions to his presence. Poor chap.
Oh, hello. I'm Father Mackenzie.
We all stared at him, hard. I did not introduce myself. I was being rude, again. I just couldn't get past the fucking elevator from hell in my fucking cupboard. I even downed my port with a glug, a whole glass of it. Downed it without any appreciation. Yes, yeah, exactly. You can see precisely how upset I was.
Oh, hello, Professor.
Father Mackenzie began with admirable composure.
I hope I'm not intruding.
He stopped and looked at Will for some sort of support. Probably the last person in the room you should be seeking support from, really. I mean, even Lucifer would support you. I mean, don't get me wrong, it may cost you your immortal soul, right enough. But she'd support you for it, quid pro quo, sort of. Will did his usual thing in a situation like this. He didn't respond to the man at all. Father Mackenzie then turned and nodded with a hint of desperation at the wing commander, who thankfully for the man took the priest's hand.
Ah, welcome. Nice to meet you and greet you, fine sir,
said the wing commander, giving his hand and ultimately his arm a hearty shake that off-balanced the priest mentally and physically.
Ah, do forgive us for our rudeness, old chap. It has been an interesting and somewhat stressful evening so far. I am Wing Commander Montgomery Fortescue, somewhat retired.
He told the man, before introducing the rest of the company.
Ah, this chap is Will,
he said, presenting the werewolf, who leaned threateningly against the back of the sofa. I mean, if he'd been sitting on it, it would still have been done in a threatening manner. He just did everything threateningly, all the time. That was Will. The priest met Will's eyes for a second and gave a timorous nod before quickly moving to a less threatening-looking thing. Less threatening thing. Little did he know that less threatening, that thing, was Beelzebub, the beast of the pit, Satan, Baphomet, Lucifer. You get me. I do wonder what he saw, because he didn't flinch or react the way most people do when they see the thing they most lust for. In a happier future time, if there were a future time, I laughed to myself. Gosh, I'd love to know what he saw when he looked at Lucy. The wing commander introduced her.
This lady is...
he said, his enormously bushy eyebrows knotting as he wondered how to introduce the Satan to a priest. Not a normal, informal introduction for anyone.
Yes, this lady is, Lucy,
I could see the desperation in his eyes as he looked at the devil and asked for help in getting to the end of this intro. He had no surname to give.
Lucy?
He was now pleading.
I'm the devil.
She smiled, giving the confused Mackenzie a dainty finger wave.
I will ask you later why you see me as Sister O'Connell of Belfast Priory. Yes, definitely O'Connell wearing, not something I think I've worn before, but something that I can recognise as well-darned socks.
Ah, right. That was that question answered then. The priest's eyes gazed a little as he looked at her. He opened his mouth to ask a question, and just gave up, letting his eyes scan the rest of the room. Good man for not asking, I thought. That could have got a bit awkward. He took in the cupboard, filled with a lift. I saw the steam rising up and damaging my wallpaper and blistering the paintwork.
Oh, I appear to be intruding.
He finished, hoping that he could use this as an excuse to leave. Behind him, unnoticed for precisely another half-second, which given the circumstances was generous, the goddess of luck stepped inside the room.
Oh, good.
Said Lucifer, as she took a sip from her glass.
Luck.
She finished.
Good luck. Luck.
She said, raising her glass as a sarcastic toast. Luckily, Luck didn't notice this. Or at least she pretended not to. The air shifted with her entrance. Subtly. Quietly. Like the universe had just realized it might be about to trip over its own shoelaces. Or not. Depending on whether she was being bad or good today. She moved past the priest with an easy grace, auburn hair catching the firelight. Freckles dusted across her skin like constellations that had decided to be informal about it. Her eyes... Well, her eyes were not eyes, they were emerald orbs, deep, bright, utterly impossible. The sort of green that didn't exist in nature unless nature was feeling particularly competitive. She smiled. Things in the room adjusted themselves slightly, just to be on the safe side of her. She could, after all, be utterly fickle. I stared, completely bemused at her arrival, then at Lucifer, then at the steaming elevator, then briefly again at the ceiling, as if considering whether it might collapse out of sheer narrative pressure. Part of me wanted to... Of course, I said at last. And why not? Why the hell not? Dave the Chupacabra chose that moment to wander in, look at the assembled collection of divine, infernal, and ecclesiastical entities, and farted. A long and tuneful fart, straight out of the rectum. He finished with a high-octave A minor, and sat looking at the guests, utterly proud of himself. It kind of added a melodic exclamation mark to the evening, if I'm honest. Vaunt was laughing violently, but as always silently behind the priest and Luck. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Yes, I said. Perfect. This is exactly how one's evening should unfold. Started so bloody well, didn't it? The port, the cheese... Fuck's sake. The professor, again. I lowered my hand from the bridge of my nose with the slow, deliberate care of a man attempting to prevent reality from worsening through sudden movement. This was all going to, whatever this was. I turned, very precisely, to Father Mackenzie. I don't wish to be rude, Father. I'm sorry if I have already offered way too much evidence for being such, But why? I asked with surgical calm. Why are you here? Father Mackenzie blinked once, still clutching his hat, still standing in a drawing room that had, within the last minute, developed steam, and what he was increasingly certain was a weird vibe.
Well,
He said with gentle honesty.
what it were was I was down in my stocks in night, and nobody else were home.
There was a pause. Will nodded.
Good tune.
He added. Father Mackenzie paused at this, then continued, encouraged by the lack of anything further from anyone else, and tried to provide the group with evidence that he was a confident man. He continued, but provided very little evidence of any confidence at all.
And then this young lady
He gestured politely towards the goddess of luck.
came in quite suddenly, actually, I must say. Invited me round to tea. Said there were to be a discussion about God and such here at Manor.
I stared at him. She what?
Well, I wasn't otherwise engaged, were I?
Father Mackenzie went on apologetically.
And, well, one don't get many invitations these days. Thought it might be rather nice. I was hoping maybe a joint congregation if things went well. I mean, both Ethel and Doris are lovely, but we could all do with a few more people, though, if it were.
A small set of sentences. They landed with more weight than anything else in the room. Even the steam seemed to hesitate. No one bothers you, I repeated faintly. Father Mackenzie gave a small, self-conscious smile.
No, not especially. No, congregation's just two at the moment, you see.
Lucifer smirked and laughed, disturbing the moment.
Sorry.
She said.
Just you have to admit, I'm doing a wonderful job.
Will shifted slightly. Monty's jaw tightened just a fraction. Lucifer watched with interest. I inhaled, slowly, then turned, equally precisely, to the goddess of luck. Why? I asked, voice now carrying the unmistakable edge of a man approaching the limits of civility. Is he here? Luck met my gaze, utterly untroubled.
Oh.
She said lightly, as if explaining the placement of flowers.
I think we might need him.
We? I asked a question of sorts, which was soundly ignored. A pause.
I think, dear lady, what we're trying to ascertain is for precisely what?
Monty asked in a controlled, measured tone. Dangerously measured, if you ask me. Luck smiled upon him. Not for the first time. It was a smile that anyone would go to war for, and accept death graciously as a result, and stepped forward. The room seemed to adjust to accommodate her movement, not visibly, just, I don't know, sort of statistically. She gestured, almost casually, towards the cupboard, towards the elevator, still breathing steam into my increasingly distressed wallpaper. She placed the index finger of her right hand to her chin in the worldwide body language associated with considering something. Her empty eyes made it impossible to work out what she was considering. Possibly a good thing. But then you should never make guesses about luck.
I have no idea.
She laughed.
Maybe it's for... I don't know. Blessings?
She said.
Yeah, blessings. That's it. That feels right.
Feels right?
A rhetorical question from the devil. I blinked. For... No, I'm sorry. What? I asked. She smiled, a soft, luminous thing that made the concept of inevitability feel oddly warm. She looked around, scanning the room.
She has no idea. She never does.
Lucifer mocked. Luck smiled.
Always seems to work out, though, eh, Lucy?
Lucy took her gaze to the port glass that refilled itself before her very eyes, before raising it to the green-eyed goddess.
Not always for the best, though.
Before she downed my bloody port. Luck ignored her. Mainly because Lucifer was, well, she was simply right.
I think I want him to bless weaponry. Yeah, that's it.
She said.
And the people that are going to hell. It's hell that they are going to, isn't it?
I simply nodded. Then there was a silence. Will, the werewolf, looked down at his hands.
Do I count as weaponry or people?
A strangely sincere question. Both devil and goddess looked at him.
A weapon in my eyes.
Said Luck, winking at the weapon.
Both.
Lucifer said.
Right.
Will laughed.
Good to know.
A set of sounds that had once been language escaped my lips. Monty did not move, didn't speak, didn't react, until Luck stepped behind him in what was some sort of slow-motion type cinematic thing. Yet it was not dramatic. There was no thunder, no shift in light. Just a simple, quiet, slow-motion clip. She placed her hand on his shoulder, gently, familiar. The kind of touch that implied a history. The room noticed. Everything noticed. Monty went utterly still. Not tense, you understand. Not defensive in any way. Just utterly still. As though a piece had just been returned to a place it had once belonged on his chessboard. Luck's expression softened, subtly, but undeniably.
He's important.
She said. Not loudly, not theatrically. Just her truth. I looked at them, at her hand on Monty's shoulder, at Monty who, against all expectations, did not remove it. I see, I said. I did not, in fact, see, not even slightly. Lucifer's smile widened, slow and delighted like someone watching a particularly promising game of cricket unfold. Father Mackenzie, meanwhile, looked slightly overwhelmed, but was doing his level best to remain professionally composed.
Blessings,
he said, faintly.
Oh, yeah, of course I can. I'm actually very good at blessings.
Will brightened.
Oh, good.
He said.
You're good at blessings. How utterly fucking useful.
Monty finally spoke. Quiet, carefully measured.
Never mind all this twaddle. On what authority,
he asked,
are we proceeding with this operation?
Luck leaned slightly closer to him. Not enough to be improper, just enough to be intentional.
Mine,
she said. A pause. And then, almost as an afterthought,
and hers.
She nodded at Lucifer.
It feels right.
Monty's eyes flickered. Something ancient. Something conflicted. Something dangerous. I clapped my hands once, sharp, decisive, trying to restart what was a sort of touch of reality to this unreal moment. The clap was the sound of a man reclaiming control of his drawing room by force of will alone. No! I said. No, 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 no. No, no, no. Did I just Farage this situation? Must be utterly dire. Right. What is it those American chaps say? Time, buddy. is out. No, that's not it. Time out! Time out! Come on now, time out! If we're to conduct a descent into hell, which I note for the record was not in my evening's plans, we will do so with bloody structure, all right? Firstly, I would not have opened the bloody port if I'd known we were going tonight. I pointed with academic authority at Father Mackenzie. You, I said, will explain precisely what your blessings entail, their limitations, and whether they will stain my upholstery, all right? I turned to Will. You will not engage in any form of heroics or psychotic episodes without appropriate supervision, all right?
To be fair,
Will began. No! I held up my hand and turned my face away from him to stop him right there. And I turned to Monty. And you, sir, will provide a chain of command that does not involve interpretive morality or divine improvisation.
understood.
Monty inclined his head slightly and clicked his heels. I turned, finally, to Lucifer. And you, madam, I said, my voice tightening. You will explain why there is an elevator to hell in my cupboard. Immediately. Lucifer smiled.
Because
She said.
you need one.
I stared at her, long, unblinking. I know we need the damned lift. I understand that perfectly. The question was more based on why it is in the cupboard of my bloody drawing room. We have deep, dark cellars here. You know that. You could have brought it up through the mould and ancient rat droppings down there, but no. The elevator cut my rant off with another ding. Soft, patient, waiting. I simply closed my eyes and wished it would all go away. We are, I said quietly. We need. Vaunt, please, would you be so kind as to fetch the 72-year-old Glen Gary Malt?
Brought to you in association with Grendel Press. This is Werewolf the Podcast, a serial killer drama.